Hey, Kayla here, and I have to begin by just saying how humbled I am by the response to episode 1. I mean, the number of messages I received from people telling me how they couldn't wait to get home and crack open a bottle of Chianti to enjoy with their loved ones, others who were on their way to the grocery store to stock up on all of the ingredients to make red sauce and meatballs at home, others who sent pictures of their little recipe index cards that had spatters of oil and little spices and fingerprints on them. It was just incredible. And I am doing this to cultivate connection. And you all delivered and amplified that in a way that I wasn't expecting. So thank you. I'm so honored. And I am so honored to share episode 2 with you. For this episode, I sat down with my friend Nick Shore, who owns Mischa's, this incredible wine shop in my neighborhood. And something I've always really appreciated about Nick is that he's a former Hollywood producer who, rather than settle for a life that didn't quite fit, he really paused and he asked himself, where does my joy, where does my passion reside, and how can I then create a life that fits me? And I just think that that's really inspiring. It surely inspires me. I hope it inspires you too. So pull up a chair and connect with us over a plate of more meatballs, cowboy meatballs this time. I hope you enjoy episode 2. And welcome back to Dish and Tell, the place where stories linger long after the last bite. I'm Kayla, and I'm stoked because today we're joined by my friend Nick Shore. Nick, welcome to Dish and Tell.
Thank you for having me.
And we have we've already started eating, a delicious plate of cowboy meatballs with garlic mashed potatoes. And for anyone who tuned in for the last episode and caught the red sauce and meatballs meal that we shared, I feel like I need a little disclaimer now that this is not a love letter to meatballs, this podcast. We will explore other dishes, but this is just where Nick's heart took us today. So before I don't need to keep talking and prattling on here, I just got to understand, what is the story behind Cowboy Meatballs? Because this was new to me. I had never heard of Cowboy Meatballs before in my life, and I was a little scared, I'm not going to lie.
For sure. When you asked me for a dish and I suggested the Cowboy Meatballs, I was a little nervous that you were going to be able to find a recipe because I wasn't sure if it was a real dish or just a made-up dish.
Something made up. Mm-hmm.
So where this came from was a dish my mom used to make for me and my friends when I was a little kid. And we'd be outside playing, and it would be time for dinner, and my mom would come up and tell us that Chuckwagon Sally was here, which was her persona that only existed for Cowboy Meatballs.
It only came out for this dish.
Only for
That's
this
incredible.
dish.
Does she have a bell?
Her name is Ginger. So there's no relation to Sally. I don't know where specifically it came from.
She was just getting in character.
For sure.
Love that.
No bell, but that, of course, would have added to the vibe.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'd be outside playing with my friends, and Chuckwagon Sally would come, with the chuck wagons, and it would be time for dinner. And, me and my friends would all enjoy our cowboy meatballs.
Okay,
and
now I picture you guys like outside sledding and coming into the house for meatballs. Like, set the scene for me.
So in reality, I feel like while I probably ate cowboy meatballs throughout the year, I remember it most on like a summer afternoon when there was no school and I would just kind of be outside playing all day until it was time for dinner.
This is a bold summertime dish.
Very much so.
It is warm. It sticks to the ribs.
For sure.
Yeah.
But when you're like burning a ton of calories being a little kid, this is what you needed.
My favorite part about living in Montana is when I have days outside and I come back and I'm like, I'm bone tired. Like I am tired to my bones, and it's a feeling that it reminds me of childhood.
Totally.
When you just send it and play so hard doing, God knows what, just literally running in the woods or whatever. But Yeah.
That's one of the special things about living here is
So
like
true. It's so true.
having that little taste of childhood exhaustion. So the reason why I chose the dish
Yeah.
for today is because I feel like it was one of those early memories that I reflect on where food became more than just about food and nourishment.
Yeah.
And this was like my mom's attempt to like continue the play.
Yeah.
Was to create the Cowboy Meatballs and the Chuckwagon Sally persona. And it was a really simple thing that I didn't really understand at the time. But as I've gotten older, have reflected on, really instilled in me like that food is this moment of social connection. It's about like having fun, as well as, of course, eating delicious food.
Yeah. I mean, some of the best stories I've heard or told or been a part of have been around a table. It's why I wanted to, one of the reasons why I wanted to create Dish and Tell, because I'm so with you. I just think there's something innately so special about food and how it can really connect us and unite us. So, okay, how do my Cowboy Meatballs live up to Chuckwagon Sally's?
They're equally as delicious,
You can be honest.
but totally different. So, like, the Chuckwagon Sally Cowboy Meatballs, I would say, to relate them to something that you would know, are almost essentially just Swedish meatballs.
Okay, so a lot of the recipes were basically like, it's basically like a Swedish meatball, but
Totally.
there's rotel and barbecue sauce. That's kind of the cocktail sauce, if you will.
There was no like red rotel barbecue.
okay.
It was basically just Swedish meatballs.
Okay.
Over egg noodles.
Okay, and that was the other thing, where a lot of the lore of Cowboy Meatballs, the history, they were really either rice or mashed potatoes. So I roasted a couple heads of garlic and put that into some butter, and then that's the base of this. Where I was like, that feels like a nice compliment because these have a little kick to them.
Totally. This is delicious.
Oh, thank you.
While totally different, is equally as delicious as the original.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And does it still transport you in the way that your mom's would, or not really, because it is just such a different flavor profile?
Well, like as we were just talking about off camera, and as you mentioned on camera, there is something about meatballs that like does transport us.
Maybe
and it's
this
like
should become a podcast only about meatballs.
a meatball podcast.
Meatballs, meatloaf.
It just feels like wherever you come
yeah.
from, you had some sort of loose variation of a meatball dish, and like, I don't know. Yeah, it still kind of has all of the things that make a meatball dish special, and it's just really comforting.
I was just really glad that they weren't bull testicles. I was afraid when I heard cowboy meat. For some reason, my head just like immediately went to that place. And I'm so committed to this. I wasn't even worried about. It wasn't even about the cooking and eating them. It was the sourcing, where I'm like, where do I even source them if that's what I really need for this? So they made it easy, because that's not the case.
I'm really happy it wasn't the bull testicles. That would have made for a really difficult podcast.
Yeah, I probably would have ended before it really even began. So,
totally.
And this blend, I gave a nod to our neighbors down the street at North Bridger Bison, and used a mix of ground bison and bacon. And I took the bacon and I put it in a food processor with some onions, some adobo chilies and adobo sauce, jalapeno, a little Worcestershire. Like, I don't know, I got a little crazy and just kind of mixed it all up.
I love it. Where did you find the recipe for this?
So Google was my friend, and I just kind of went
a little deep, and I ended up finding a recipe from Southern Living that I used as my foundation and sort of adapted. So, yeah, there were a few out there, though.
Success.
Yeah, thank you.
I
That
would
means a
recreate
lot.
this.
Well, turns out you can have the recipe.
I appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, I'll give it to you before anyone else.
That sounds good. Thank you.
So one of the reasons why I wanted to have lunch with you today, sit down with you today, is because I'm so inspired by your passion. Like, I see Nick and that's such a word I associate with you. And it's really because I know a bit about your story and how you used to be a producer in Hollywood. And you're just like, you know what? This life isn't for me. And instead of trying to force yourself into that societal sort of construct and quote unquote normal definition of what career and sort of fulfillment and passion looks like, you took a step back. I just find that really inspiring. I think that takes a lot of courage. I think that's a really brave thing to do.
Thanks.
Did you have models of that when you were growing up? I mean, what kind of gave you that sort of blueprint on how to do it?
Yeah. I mean, I was really lucky. My parents are super supportive of me doing something that I'm passionate about. My dad is an artist, and so he's somebody that, followed his passion and did something that is maybe against the norm.
Convention or whatever. I hate using those words, but
So I felt really lucky and grateful to not only have supportive parents, but also have that person who did do that as a role model.
yeah.
But that being said, the societal pressures is stronger than, for me at least, the parents' support.
I feel that deeply. I feel that. The past year, I personally was in this place of career transition, and in many ways still am. And it's really interesting when you don't have, it's like the second question you're asked, what do you do? And what's your name and what do you do?
Totally.
And when you're kind of defining that and figuring out what that is, and you take that label away, or you just don't have one that fits in a neat little box, it's very interesting, one, to acknowledge how that manifests within you and how you feel, but also how other people sort of respond and react.
Yeah.
So I get that very much.
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like moving out of a bigger city definitely makes it easier to see past all of that.
Yeah.
But I had this one conversation years ago that I really feel like inspired me and helped me make this change in my life, which was, I wanted to get out of the film industry, and so decided to go back to school and went to business school. And, the first summer of business school, you're supposed to go do an internship. And
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you go to business school because you really wanted to, or it just felt like you should have gone?
I wanted to do something involved in sustainability. And then I met this person, a friend of mine's older brother, who went to this sustainable business school. And I liked the idea of that more. So that was kind of why I chose to go to specifically business school. Not that I necessarily really wanted to go to business school, but I just thought it would teach me
That's fair.
business acumen and kind of understand things differently. So I was at business school first summer, trying to find an internship, trying to, do maybe follow a more conventional role. And so I reached out to this financial advisor and thought, okay, what do people do in business school? You go work in finance in some regard. And I called this guy, just cold called some, financial advisor in Portland that specializes in sustainable investments, and told him the story and asked for an internship job. And he said, if you want to come work for me for the summer, you can, but let me just say this. And what he told me has really stuck with me, which is that when you're thinking about making a career transition, you need to think about what it was about the job that you're currently in at its core that you really like. And then when thinking about new things to do, trying to find those things, like those core things about your new job, even if there isn't a kind of direct relation. And he gave his example, which was like his past job was as a rafting guide. And he realized he likes guiding people through uncharted waters, and that's what like a financial advisor does. And that like kind of finding that core interest, but bringing it out of like a direct relation, I feel like really opened things up for me to think about like what I could do next.
Absolutely. I love that advice. And I think it's so applicable to both of us, to really anybody listening too. And hopefully it's an invitation to just continue to move towards joy. That's all you're doing. Like, what are the things that light you up, that make you feel some kind of way, that get you excited, that ignite that passion, and just do more of that. Spend more time with those people. Spend more time making the dishes, testing the Cowboy Meatballs, finding the wine, all of it. So that's really, I'm really glad that you met that person and they touched you in that way. That's awesome.
I wish I remember the person's name or anything else about him other than this conversation.
He was just a little angel. He floated in, he gave you the wisdom you needed, and then carried on. I have to say, I just think that you, in following your heart, following your passion to create Mischa's, this incredible wine shop.
Thanks.
That in itself is an act of rebellion in a way. And it doesn't surprise me that at the core of that is natural wine that has this sort of, vibe for being anti-establishment and a little punk rock. And so I just see those little connective tissues, and are you like, that's part of natural wine's allure to me.
For sure. I mean, I think like getting into wine, that was, while at the time there wasn't necessarily the label of natural wine, and we didn't realize the wine that we were getting into was grouped like that, but I think one of the things that like I responded to really early was the kind of anti-authority and anti-convention of the movement, whether that was, a rejection of like industrial agricultural practices or
going back to your sort of passion around sustainability and just getting curious there. Totally.
And a rejection of how business has shaped the wine industry. You grew up on a vineyard and you have some old vines that technically maybe it would be more valuable for you to rip them out to plant Chardonnay, but people not ripping out their old vines and still making this type of wine that theoretically is only made in their one area.
Are you watching Drops of God?
I am watching Drops of God.
I am too.
I mean, it's really fun just because there's not that much wine content out there, but
it's fun. It's indulgent. I think it's beautiful in a lot of ways. Plus, I'm obsessed with France and Japan.
Totally.
And so it checks both of those boxes. So.
The world is really fun. I think that the world of wine that they represent is the world of wine that doesn't really resonate with me personally.
It's very polarizing. I think it's why there's, it's a lot of what people don't enjoy about
Totally.
wine.
The kind of like stuffiness of it. Unfortunately, there's just, status and all this social stuff around wine, which I think really turns people off of wine and turned me off of wine for so long.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I feel like I had an exposure to a different side of wine that was even something that I could get into. Like, also just being in like my mid 20s at the time, like I didn't have money to buy super nice bottles and or super expensive bottles, and it wasn't until, you know.
And it's there's not that many people out there telling you that you can really have some incredible bottles that don't cost a fortune too.
Totally.
You know, I mean, I've had some great wines that come out of a box. You know.
You can have a life-changing wine for $20.
Okay, speaking of life-changing wines, talk to me a little bit more about what you brought here, because you recently, and we haven't even caught up about this, you recently went to France on a wine sort of discovery trip and all that, and I believe this is one of the producers that you met with, right?
Yep. So this is a producer. Their names are Luke and Benedict, and their winery is called Terra Vita Vinum. They're based in the Loire Valley, which is a very large river valley that kind of starts in central France and goes out towards the ocean. So where they are is kind of southwest of Paris by a few hours. I chose this bottle for a few reasons. One of which I thought it would go well with the food.
And it does. Which you were so kind to bring it. It was very nice of you to bring. So thank you.
My pleasure.
Yeah.
So this wine is special for many reasons. One of which is I feel like it exemplifies one of the things that I love about wine, which is the connection of people. And so Luke and Benedict came out to visit us last summer here in Montana. And we had a wonderful time together. And then on this last trip to France, we visited them. And that's just one of the things I love.
Were they at one of the Roly Poly pop-ups? Okay, awesome.
Yep,
Awesome.
so they were maybe like the first one we did where there were winemakers around. That kind of like connection that is possible between Montana and, you know, where they're based in the Loire is so special.
Yeah.
They loved coming out here so much. It was so wonderful to get to see them and where they came from, and like just to kind of
cool
start
full circle kind of moment for you guys.
and just to like start that relationship. And then, you know, on another level, like the importer of this wine, you know, is now become a close friend, and he's also come out to visit us. He was the one who hosted this last trip that we went on, and I don't know, one of the great things about this, other than the delicious juice, are the people, and I feel like this wine really represents all of that, from the delicious juice to the wonderful people that helped bring this wine to our table here today.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. At your beautiful wine shop at Mischa's in Bozeman, I know that you and your wife Anastasia, you pick wines not only because they taste delicious and the people behind them that make them just really stand out, but for their stories. So is there a particular story? I mean, this is a great one, but any that you're like, man, that one I just can't get out of my head, or just like, is there a really one that you go to when someone comes in the shop? You're like, let me talk to you about this.
I would say like there isn't necessarily one story, but just the idea that every wine has a story behind it. And that's one of the things I think is really special about wine, is that every wine is so personal to the winemaker and kind of says so much about who they are,
where they are,
like why they chose to make these decisions. Cabernet Franc can be expressed in so many different ways. Why did they choose to do it in this way? Says so much about like who they are, also just as people. But I would say early on, some of the kind of stories that really resonated with me and helped me get into wine. There seemed to be, at least in the early days, a common thread of folks who got into wine as a kind of rediscovering of a second career or passion for themselves. And I feel like that really resonated with me at a particular time in my life, and people who made a decision to maybe leave something more stable or whatever to do something more focused.
Passion fueled,
On passion, and of course, like something that's not gonna like get you rich.
Yeah. I mean, the opposite, actually. I was just on a similar type of trip with a good friend of ours, works with very similarly these producers who are like, I love what I do. I love essentially being a grape farmer who gets to have some fun playing with the juice. And it's so impressive to me, these people who are, the sacrifices they make, and the fact that they have these 40, 50-hour a week, very demanding jobs and families and all these things, but they just love producing the wine and being a part of all of it. And so they find a way to make it work. And it's really inspiring. Truly.
Totally. Like there are so many of these winemakers who fully still have other jobs and careers, and it's actually just the thing that they do in their free time,
the like
that they're
nighttime
passionate
weekend
about.
thing.
It's incredible. As I'm sure you can relate to, it's like easy to say when doing, you know, a corporate job or something like that, like, oh, I'll do this thing I'm passionate about after work on the weekend. And like it comes and you're tired, and it's like,
or you're just like, you don't have any creativity left in the tank
Totally.
to give it, or the right amount of love, and it keeps like finding its way to the back burner.
Totally.
Which it's so easy to see how that happens. But it just, I think that's why I have so much respect.
It's just really cool seeing that. And then I would say another thing that really resonated with me early on was getting into agriculture and kind of realizing that wine at its heart is just an agricultural product and a way to preserve
100%.
grape calories, and that it doesn't all have to be this fancy thing to be fussed over. And kind of to that, and what we were talking about a little bit earlier, you know, this wine is not maybe the example of it, but some of these wines are very much about preserving, you know, a cultural identity of a region through the grapes that they've grown there historically and the types of wines they've produced. And I really love this idea of preserving those flavors, and I've gotten really interested in the concept of lost flavors and how, you know, over time, as you know, our needs for preservation have changed. We don't need to preserve stuff anymore because we all have refrigerators, so on and so forth. Through stopping to ferment and preserve, we are losing certain flavors, and it's like...
And traditions.
Totally. Like random cultural traditions around making particular wines, or not even just wine, but like other random preserved food products. And, you know, when you taste like a Georgian wine from the Republic of Georgia, you know, one of the birthplaces of wine, it's cool to taste something that's like at all reminiscent of something that people were drinking thousands of years ago. Of course, nowadays, everything is so much more refined.
Thousands and thousands, and I mean, truly.
It's
Little
so
drops
cool.
of God reference there.
Totally.
You know?
I know, especially with the Georgian wine. But there's like a reason why they chose that for the show, because like that's so interesting that you can even tap into that and like explore things of the area. And I feel often like food is one of the last vestiges of authentic culture in our world that is kind of overly homogenized. And so I find myself really trying to learn about other people and other cultures through food and also wine, if that's a part of that culture. And
it is in most cultures in some capacity. They just go hand in hand.
Totally.
And really can enhance a dish and elevate it and make it just bring you into that sense of space and place even more significantly. I think it's why I love traveling different places. And one of the things I always look up is where's the local cooking school or the cooking class? What's the thing where even if it's like maybe a little cheesy and a little touristy, you're still doing something that is authentic to that space, and you're utilizing ingredients and just different practices, and I think it's the best way to learn a place is through the palate, through the food.
And like to learn how to cook something like.
Want to give me another splash there?
Of course.
Not shy over here.
No, it's here to be drunk. Is like, you know, having pasta in Italy is more than about pasta in Italy. It's like the cultural traditions around making pasta. It's like, you know, the family hanging out together as like you're making the pasta, or, you know, the group of families that come together every year and buy tomatoes, and like you have your day where you're all going to make tomato sauce, and it's like cool to tap into that and to like, even as a tourist, to briefly understand kind of what went into this. That's more than just like, oh, this food's delicious. You know.
Okay, so we've been talking about passion in all of its different forms. So now I'm going to pivot and talk about romantic passion a little bit. And no, this isn't me trying to pick you up. Don't worry. That would be kind of an incredible segue, though, huh?
Yeah,
like a podcast first. But no, I really want to talk about your incredible wife, Anastasia, and in getting to know you and understanding your love story, I know that you were long distance for a little bit.
Yeah, so for the first, I don't know, 4 years we were together, we were in a long distance relationship.
Good on you guys. That's a long time.
For sure. And so she would spend, you know, 6 months of the year about in a little less in America. And I would spend, you know, a month or two in Vienna as well, where she is from. And, you know, when we were together, we felt like every night was so special because we didn't have the luxury of getting to be together every single night.
Yeah.
And so to make things special, one of the things we did was cooked a really special dinner and drank a really special bottle of wine. And so we were living in Los Angeles at the time, really excited about the farming scene around like greater Southern California.
Oh my gosh,
And, you know, would twice a week go to the farmer's market. And
which one?
we would go on Wednesdays, go to Santa Monica. And on Sundays, we'd go to Hollywood.
Oh, Sundays I went to the Mar Vista one. It's a great one.
I love the farmer's markets there.
Oh, they're
And
so
then,
vibrant.
Yeah, we'd just get like fun things to make for dinner, and would, you know, try to have a special dinner where we'd make something like slightly elaborate. And then, we would ride our bikes to our local wine shop, which is this wine shop in LA that's still around called Domain LA. Shout out to Jill and Julian from Domain.
Yeah, Jill and Julian.
who really like got us into wine, and without
cheers to them, because
Totally.
now I'm reaping the benefits
cheers
of
to
that.
them.
Thank
For
you.
sure. Yeah, I feel like I had never been to a wine shop quite like theirs. You know, this was kind of in the days before the like marketing term of natural wine. It was just like these wines there that had an interesting story, but it was also their attitude. Like they were genuinely excited for us to get excited about wine and didn't make it intimidating at all. And like,
it's contagious. Again,
Totally.
going back to passion, when you're passionate about something
Totally.
and your energy, it just ignites everyone around you.
Totally.
It's awesome.
And so, yeah, without them, definitely would not have gotten into wine.
Yeah.
So yeah, we would just like go there every day to get a bottle and talk to them and have fun. And that's like how we made the 4 years work, was maybe putting in the extra love and attention to the time we are together. And then finding this thing that we really enjoy doing together. That was something that like we didn't do outside of each other.
Yeah.
Like it's not like either of us were necessarily like cooking elaborate dinners or getting really into wine with our other friends. It was
Yeah.
really just with
Something
us.
that you shared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Gosh, I mean, if that's
Yeah.
not wine and food as connection, I don't know what is.
for sure. No, for sure. And that's like part of the reason why we even have the shop now, was like we believe in it so hard.
Yeah.
And just like want to spread the love, for
And you do.
lack of a better
You
phrase.
really do. You really do. So, Nick, our plates are nearly finished here. So we should probably start to wrap this up. And
Sounds good.
I'm going to leave you with my parting question. So what is it that you hope lingers after this conversation, like a really good dessert? We've had our main course, so let's give our viewers and our listeners a little something sweet to leave with.
That food is more about spending time with friends and family than it is the literal nourishment of needing calories. And that to not forget about that, like to find the joy in the cowboy meatballs with the friend, and to enjoy good wine.
Yeah.
This is one of the most exciting times in history to be drinking wine. There's more yummy wine being made today than ever before. And yeah, just to spend time with your family and friends and laugh.
I love that. Laugh. I love it.
That's like the most important thing of it all,
More of it.
is just laugh.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Nick, I love you. You're welcome
you
at my
too.
table anytime.
Thank you so much.
And I love all of you who pulled up a chair and joined us. Thank you for being a part of the Dish and Tell community. My recipe for cowboy meatballs, not necessarily Nick's mom's cowboy meatballs, but
equally as good.
equally as good,
Equally as delicious.
will be available on my Substack, so make sure to check it out there for more. And until next time, buon appetito. Yay!
Perfect.